Hey, this is JR McNair. Welcome to the SB News. We are giving the best updates for small businesses, and we have been giving them since before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and at current. So, listen, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the new PPP updates and everything, and we wanted to make sure you had as much information as possible to stay up to date and to apply for things if you haven't applied for them, and just to get the information so you know it and know it in specific detail. And that's what we're going to do to you now. So stay tuned. I have with me our resident expert, great friend, great person, Miss Lisa Davis. How are you doing, Lisa?
Hi, everything's going well. Keeping
Great.
busy.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you, in the tax time, we in here, but we stopped everything that we're doing to make sure that we did this video because we wanted to make sure that everyone had the information and that we could get this information to you so you can make good decisions in your small business. So yeah, let's get to it. Lisa, all of these changes, these things that have been happening, now that President Biden's in office and the things that we've learned with all these new things going on. I mean, it's a lot.
It, it is, and it's actually been from one administration to the next. So when you think of what we do as accounting firm, as CPAs, we've had changes since the 2018 Tax Cut and Jobs Act that went into effect in 2019. 2020, we got hit with COVID-19. We had a lot of adjustments there. And now we're here in 2021, still dealing with COVID-19 and dealing with another set of tax laws that's going to affect individuals and small businesses based on the new COVID laws. So the last, I guess, 2 to 3 years for us has been nonstop changes and adjustments.
And that's something. I mean, so those are changes and adjustments for you as an accounting and tax professional. But we know the changes and adjustments for the small businesses out there have been phenomenal, right?
It has. It really has put a lot of pressure on us to make sure that we communicate as best as possible to our client base and to just the small businesses as a whole on how these changes and adjustments can benefit them, some of the changes they may have to make to take full advantage of it. And so basically that's what we've been trying to do is we've really been trying to keep people abreast of the new information as it comes out. It does seem like sometimes as soon as we get the information out, it's changing again. So we're sending out new information again. And so that's kind of where we are today, actually, to talk about what has changed since the last time we talked about this subject.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why I always tell people stay in front of the right information. Make sure you are a part of a network that is giving you vital, up to date information. Because even, we may hear things, but we may not fully understand how those things apply to our businesses. So you need to have some people that know this. I mean, I live, sleep, and breathe small businesses. And Lisa's dealing with small businesses, large companies. So she's on the forefront of getting this information, and we're listening to this information, and we want to make sure that if there's anybody in this within our network that they're getting this information ahead of time and during this time so that they can take advantage of what they need to take advantage of. So I wanted to get into really these new changes and really like before we get into the new changes, let's just go back a little bit and kind of look and see maybe any things that's happened towards the end of the year and over the past 6 months, any kind of things that we've kind of been able to see kind of and then leading up to where we are today.
Well, just to kind of just to make, I know everyone's aware of, say, the stimulus payments that has been on the news for the past. I guess we're slowly coming up to maybe 9 months to a year on that. So as you know, there were stimulus payments that were authorized in 2020. We're waiting for another big stimulus package that should come through in the next 30 days or so for 2021. And so what a lot of people didn't recognize is that when you got that stimulus payment in 2020, that payment was an advance against a credit that's on your 2021 tax return. So as long as you receive the money and you receive the amount that you were supposed to receive, there's not really much else that you have to do on your 2020, when you file your 2020 tax return now in 2021. However, if you had any new, they made those stimulus payments based off of, the first one was based off either your 18 or 19 tax return, depending on when you filed. And the second was based off the 2019 tax return. So if you had any new dependents that happened since your 18 or 19 filing, then you didn't receive the correct stimulus amount. So what you need to make sure is that you communicate with the accountant that you're working in on what the stimulus amount was that you received. They include that on your return so they can calculate the difference for any additional dependents that would have been there. So we've seen a lot of that where that was left off. Also with, say, divorced couples that have shared custody, where you rotate which year one parent has a kid or not. Because it's a credit against the 2020 tax return, if you don't claim that kid in 2019, but you claim in 2020, you're still eligible for that stimulus amount. So that needs to be notated on your 2020 tax return that's being done between now and April 15th. So it's really important to have the right information and get the right thing out there when you're filing your return and you're communicating with your tax accountant. The other issue that we run into is if you had a dependent that was over the age of 17, say they were a college student, you didn't get any additional dollars in the stimulus package for that dependent. However, if that dependent is now claiming as an individual and not a dependent on your tax return, they can mark on their 2020 tax return to get those stimulus payments that you did not receive, nor did they receive, because they were previously a dependent on the returns that the IRS was reviewing. So there's a lot of changes there. There's still a lot of opportunity. Just make sure that people communicate with your tax preparer. If you're self-preparing, make sure you communicate with someone with your software that you're marking the right categories so you can get the right dollar amounts. And then reconsider with your college students on whether it's best for them to still report as a dependent of your tax return or independently file if they can.
I want to talk about something else too, about forgiveness. Okay. Not somebody forgiving a friend, but this PPP forgiveness. Can we talk about that?
So we're gonna move now from the stimulus payments, which were individual payments against your personal tax returns, to the payroll protection program. And this was they called it a loan, but it was a forgivable loan, which means if you use it for the right things, you would not owe the money back. It would just be forgiven. So that rolled out for the first round of PPP rolled out in 2020. In 2021, the second round PPP rolled out, and there was a caveat with the second round. You actually had to show a decrease in revenue from one quarter to another of at least 20, might have been 30% to qualify for that second round PPP. But also to qualify for the second round PPP, you had to confirm that you were either in the process of forgiveness for the first round, or you had used the first round money for those eligible expenses. And so we're seeing a couple different things. Generally, when you apply for forgiveness, depending on the amount of your loan, you may have to submit the payroll documentation showing how you spent the PP loan, or some bankers, and it depends on the bank you work with, are just accepting the signed statement that says, if my loan was under $50,000 and I used all the money on payroll, or I'm sole proprietor and I used it on my compensation, just accepting that signed statement saying, yes, the funds were used for appropriate reasons, I'm not doing anything illegal. And that was all the documentation they need. And actually, that's all SBA is requiring. However, depending on which bank you're working with, some of the banks are requiring some additional documentation like the payroll reports and that sort of thing. It's not an SBA requirement for those smaller loans, but it may be a bank requirement. So most of the people who are putting in for forgiveness, usually you get it into your bank. Once they have everything, they submit it to SBA, and SBA provides the approval for forgiveness, and then the bank will send you that final approval. When people were applying for forgiveness about a month ago, I would say, they were probably getting that approval within 5 to 6 business days, and it would come back. There's been a bit of delay. It's actually been taking a little bit longer, probably in the last 30 days. And that's only because SBA is continuing to put out new information, continuing to try to simplify the process. And so some of the banks are putting this on hold, and SBA is putting it on hold to make sure all the appropriate documentation gets out to people before they find that final approval.
That's something. That's something. That's a lot.
It's a
So,
lot. Yes.
yeah, so, but I want us to get up on this new update with the PPP. Okay, but before we get on that new update with the PPP, I do want us to go back and talk about the EIDL. Okay, and
Okay.
I want to talk about this, how this new advance. Let's talk about this advance and how that pertains to people out there.
So this is actually a really exciting piece of what's going on, which is the EIDL. So everybody know the EIDL, and maybe not everyone knows, but anyone who's been watching this, we've talked about it several times. It's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And so it was a 30-year loan that you could apply for at a very low interest rate, anywhere from 2.75 to 3.75%. For your business through SBA. So SBA is the lender. You're not going through a bank. And they would authorize this loan based on the application, real simple application you would do online, but very limited underwriting. Part of the EIDL, what it started with was the EIDL advance. So the advance was separate from the loan. The advance was something you're not going to pay back. EIDL loan was something that you were going to pay back. So the advance originally was supposed to be $10,000 per company. That was the first information that was put out last year. They quickly determined that they did not have enough funds to really give each and every company that would apply $10,000. So they changed it to $1,000 per employee with a max of $10,000. So if you were a small business and you had 3,000 employees and you applied for the EIDL loan, you got $3,000 advance. 2 employees, $2,000 advance, 5 employees, $5,000. So a part of the latest CARES Act that was just recently passed, they determined that they would try to go back and give the full $10,000 to certain small businesses that would qualify. So there were kind of 2 caveats for you to qualify. One is, well, 3. First is you didn't receive the full $10,000 when you did your application. 2 is your business is in a designated low-income community. And this is determined by the business address that is not only registered with the IRS as well as registered on the application you did with SBA. And they have a map that you can look at to see if your locations is in a designated low-income community. And then number 3 is that you had a decrease in revenue in any 8-week period from one year to another compared to the other 8-week period. If you met those criteria, then the SBA will be contacting you and saying, hey, you qualify to continue processing your application for the EIDL advance. They're going to give you some information to complete, maybe a 4506T, which basically allows them to pull your transcripts from the IRS, make sure those addresses match. And then they're going to fund you the difference between what you received and the $10,000 to make sure you get to that full $10,000 match. The only caveat is the SBA has said, don't contact us, we will contact you. Basically, we have all the applications that came in on the EIDL. We know how much money we gave each company in advance. We're going to go in date order by the list and contact the people on the list that qualify for additional dollars to get to the 10,000. And I do know, based on clients that we work with, they have started that process. They have started contacting people. I think it's just going to be a slow go to go through that entire list. But what I would do, if you have a business and you've done the EIDL application, go and cross-reference your address with their link as far as a low-income community, see if your community qualifies, and then make a note that you should be hearing from SBA, I would hope in the next 30 to 90 days, but it's hard to say how long it'll take for them to get through that list.
Wow, that's something. That's
And
something.
that was a mouthful.
Yeah, no. So we're talking about the EIDL loan, which is a loan that's over 30 years, low payment, a year essentially before you have to even start making your first payment on that. And
Yes.
then this advance that they had given to us that was supposed to be $10,000 per person, but it ended up being $1,000 per employee. And now they're saying if you're in a certain designated community, you did not get that $10,000 to total, you may only got 1,000 of the 10, then they would give you the remainder, which would be $9,000 in a grant that would be a grant that you don't have to pay back.
Absolutely. It's fully forgivable. You don't have to pay back. It's not even taxable.
Okay,
So
wow, that's great. So
that's the best kind of money you can have.
no, all day, all day. Let me tell you, free untaxable money, that's
Yes,
phenomenal. So
yes.
so yeah, and that's great information. And so small
So,
businesses make sure
yeah,
to go ahead,
yeah,
please.
I just want to say, be on a watch out for the email from SBA. Make sure it doesn't get caught in your spam folder or it doesn't get quarantined, because SBA is not going to probably reach out more than a couple times before they move on. So make sure you're watching out for that email if you know you're in a designated area, so you can respond quickly and get that process moving.
No, you're right. And that's the thing. I was just gonna say that, make sure if you're out there and that could possibly be you, just to make sure you're checking your emails and being ready. You don't have to be checking
Yes.
them every day. I'm just saying, just I know lots of people who got correspondence back from the SBA even after they did their initial advance, and the SBA wanted to offer them loan at that, and they didn't even see it, and it was in their
Yeah.
spam somewhere. And
Yeah, we had that issue as well with some of our clients. So
yeah, and then when they went to apply back, they were like, your time is expired. You can reapply, but it's going to take this amount of time. And 3 to 6 months later, they got their monies. But
right,
they could have got it a lot sooner if they were just checking their emails, right? Not everything
absolutely.
you get in is spam, so you just make sure you check it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Most definitely. Let's talk about the main thing I wanted to get on here today and speak about, which is this new update that they sent down from the president's office, and the update from the government for sole proprietorships and small businesses in general. They have something for small businesses, stuff for sole proprietorships. They have all kind of interesting information that I want to make sure that everybody is up to date on.
So that's some of the most exciting news that have come out just as of yet. One of the issues we had when working with a lot of our clients was that some of our clients are sole proprietors, which means they file a Schedule C on their tax return. And so when SBA was looking at how to qualify for the PPP loan, they would look at line 31 on your Schedule C. So if anybody who has a sole proprietor, go to line 31 on your Schedule C, and you'll see that's all of your income after all of your expenses, after your home office deduction, after your mileage deduction. Basically, as low as you can get your income, that's what they were using to do the calculation for the PPP loan. So they would take that number, average by 12 to get 1 month, times 2.5 to get what you would qualify for. Well, we had some of our small businesses, maybe they were writing off a large piece of equipment that year, and their line 31 is a negative. Well, if you have no income, you wouldn't qualify for the PPP. And so I'm sure SBA, as well as our legislators, they've heard it from all of us. They've heard it from our associations that a lot of small businesses, a lot of sole proprietors, solo entrepreneurs, this was really hurting them to get any type of assistance. So the latest is that effective March 1st, which will be Monday, there are going to be new rules rolling out for Schedule C filers. And those new rules are going to be focusing on how to change the formula on how their PPP is calculated to make sure they get the maximum PPP. So there's some talk about not using that net line 31 and maybe going back to their gross income, total income, to look at calculating the PPP. They're going to remove some restrictions for small business owners that were declined before. It says they had a prior felony conviction. If that prior conviction is a non-fraud conviction, then they're going to now qualify for the PPP where they did not before. Also, some of the small business owners that struggle with making their student loan payments and maybe had some delinquency or default there, they were also denied their PPP due to that delinquency. They're removing that restriction to make sure those individuals will still qualify for their PPP as well as non-citizens that are lawful U.S. residents. That means if you have a TIN number or any taxpayer identification number and you're are a resident of the U.S., even if you're not a citizen, you can now qualify for the PPP. So this is moving some really major restrictions to people who needed the funds just as well as other businesses out there where they were denied. And now it's going to open it up where they'll be able to apply and to have those funds. And they're also doing a restriction from today until the next, let's see, we're going from February 24th until March 9th. The PPP application portal will only be open for people with 20 or less employees. So they're going to really focus on those micro to really small, truly small businesses for the next 15 to 20 days, actually closer to, I guess, probably close about 25 days, focusing on just those applications so they can process and get some of those changes in. So if you've been declined for a PPP in the past for any of those reasons, or you're a sole proprietor and you said, well, I wouldn't qualify because I didn't have the income on my Schedule C or the net income, but you had gross income, come Monday, now's the time to get on one of these platforms and apply. You can go through your bank. You can go through eBiz Credit. You can go through Cabbage. Now's the time to take a look at that and go and apply while these changes are being made.
That's great. And, you know, I look at this as a opportunity. I mean, shoot, I mean, you know, I'm really trying to understand how they would, you know, it would seem as though you're going to have everybody now like a flood of people that are going to be coming in, which that's great. It's going to be a lot of people that are going to be helped with this, but it would seem as though it's going to just maybe already continue to possibly clog the pipeline, but because they're giving us this window specifically for small businesses, maybe it will stay at the same pace. I'm not sure on that.
I would actually hope so, JR, because my concern is there's not enough resources getting this information out to the people that's going to be impacted by this, and that they're not going to know to go in and get this. So SBA is going to be sending out notices to people who've engaged with SBA before. If you did a loan with SBA, a prior loan, a prior PPP, a prior application, they're going to be sending these notices out directly to you. There are several organizations that's going to be sending these notices out, but some of the people who've been through this process before and been declined for various reasons, they're not going to be necessarily in the forefront of this information or be looking for this information. And we need to make sure that we get that info over to those individuals that's going to be impacted the most and that are going to qualify to be able to do the application.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. I mean, I feel as though, you know, it's not enough information is being distributed out here for you know, for the masses. So, you know, that's why it's important for people to be in touch with outlets like ours where we're updating and getting it to the people. And if you do have people who can use this information, share this information.
Absolutely. That's what I want to stress. We all have to do our job to share that information with every small business owner, even if they don't own it. Some people, they think, oh, I just get a 1099. I don't own a business. A 1099 contractor is a small business within itself. Even if you're not registered with the state or you're not incorporated, if you file a Schedule C on your tax return, you're considered a small business. And so anyone that you know that's an independent contractor, you need to stress to them to contact us if they need more information. Reach out. We can get the information to them. We want them to get out there and apply.
Yeah, it's time to apply. And, you know, this is, I've never seen this happen for, you know, at any other time. So I think this is you know, for people to get any kind of funding for their businesses. And so, you know, I'm like, where this is an opportunity, not only for small businesses to survive, this could be an opportunity that can really turn the whole situation around for a lot of small businesses and put them in a place where they can actually think about actually working on their business and going forward with it. So I think this is a phenomenal opportunity for most small businesses that are out there that will never get this even amount of capital or cash influx into a company at one particular point in time.
Right. I agree. These funds are meant to help us through these times, which are going to be difficult. A lot of us have not returned back to normal when it comes to our business because things haven't returned back to normal. We're still looking at vaccinations, the impact on the population, people being sick, people not being in large crowds. So a lot of our businesses are not back to where we were before. So it's important to have these funds out there circulating in our economy, helping out small businesses, helping businesses stay afloat until we can get things back to where we were before and those businesses can return to being profitable.
Yeah, or at least back to some new kind of normal, right? So
Yes, whatever the new normal is.
that's
Yes.
right. That's right. That's right. No, listen, I'm do you can you think of anything else that we may not have mentioned that may be something that these small businesses need to look out for?
There is just one more thing I want to mention. If you have an existing SBA 7A loan or small loan, as you know, last year, SBA came in during the height of the pandemic and paid 6 months worth of payments on those loans. They are once again doing that for 3 months. So starting in February, if you haven't received the notice from your lender, you should. SBA is stepping in for existing 7A loans in good standing condition. They're going to pay the next 3 months worth of payments for February, March, and April. So be on the lookout for that as well.
That's great. That's great. And listen, you all stay up to date with us here at the SB News. And I want to say thanks so much, Lisa, for coming on and helping us provide this great information to our audience base.
And just one last thing, visit our website at kenesawcpa.com. Again, that's kenesawcpa.com. We have lots of great information. If you visit our learning page, it'll have a lot of information for small business owners, updates on what's going on with COVID-19 and the CARES Act, and just some information for you to use all year round. So please go out there and visit our website and then reach out if you have any questions.
Most definitely, most definitely. And y'all can be sure to get this great information. We're gonna get it to you. And I'm JR McNair with Lisa Davis. This is the SB News presented by the Small Business Magazine. Until the next time, y'all be safe and be well.